So you never know where these videos are going to go. I'm going to tell you right now that everything that you are watching in this particular video are things that I watched on my phone, and two of the major ones, the first time that we see a gun on camera in the Charlie Kirk situation, and also this one that we're looking at right here, where the implication is that this might be Lance Twiggs, the boyfriend. Okay. When I watched them on my phone, in both cases, I thought, there's nothing here. So many people have sent it to me though. I will put them in the video. And as you'll see shortly, I'm going to show them to you guys in the video. And after looking up on the big screen, I actually think there's something to both. Primarily this one, the first to run. This one, many of my viewers sent this to me. Okay, so let me play this for you, and then I'll tell you exactly what I think this is, right? So it says, why was this footage scrubbed? He was the first to run from the crowd after Charlie Kirk was shot, gun in hand, and they still pretend he doesn't exist. Reminder, this is the only person ever caught on video holding a gun that day. So who's protecting him and why? Okay.
Every story has two sides. But in this one, the truth was buried deep beneath headlines, sealed reports, and a rush to judgment. When the news of Charlie Kirk's shocking death broke, the nation demanded answers, and quickly. Within days, authorities named their suspect, Tyler Robinson, a 27-year-old security contractor with a clean record and a promising future. They said the evidence was clear. The weapon, the motive, the confession, everything pointed to him. The case, it seemed, was closed. But time has a way of revealing what people try to hide. As investigators moved on and the public turned the page, small inconsistencies began to surface. Fragments of data, overlooked footage, and silent witnesses who no longer felt safe staying silent. Piece by piece, a different picture started to emerge. One that suggested the unthinkable, that the man accused of pulling the trigger may never have pulled it at all. Now, after weeks of sealed warrants, withheld files, and unanswered questions, two solid pieces of proof have come to light. Proof that could change everything. The first, a drone recording that shows a second figure on the rooftop moments before the shooting. The second, a recovered security log file revealing that Robinson's access card was disabled before the fatal shot was fired. Together, these two findings tell a story the public was never meant to hear. One of deception, misdirection, and the quiet power of control. So today, we go beyond the headlines and into the heart of a case that may have been built on a lie. We'll uncover how evidence was hidden, how one man became the perfect suspect, and how the truth, long buried under bureaucracy and silence, is finally beginning to rise. This isn't a story about politics or controversy. It's a story about accountability, about how easily truth can be twisted and how hard it fights to be seen again. Before we dive into this story, remember this is Detective Kate, True Crime, a channel that stands for justice and giving every case the attention it deserves. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our investigations. And don't forget, share your thoughts and theories below. Every clue counts. It began as a routine event, calm, organized, and uneventful. Inside a private auditorium, Charlie Kirk addressed a select audience of supporters and staff. Security was strict, cameras were limited, and every movement was carefully coordinated. When the event ended, he stepped outside, surrounded by his protection team. The air was calm, until it wasn't. Two sharp bursts shattered the silence. Panic followed. Witnesses described confusion, shouting, and the sight of Kirk collapsing near the entrance steps. In those few chaotic moments, the entire atmosphere shifted from order to disbelief. Within minutes, the area was sealed off. Officers flooded the scene, and statements began to pour in. The investigation moved quickly. Too quickly, some would later say. Within 2 days, authorities announced a suspect, Tyler Robinson, a licensed security contractor with no prior record and no known link to Kirk beyond professional circles. Investigators claimed the evidence was overwhelming: ballistic matches, witness statements, and a note said to be written by Robinson himself. The public accepted the conclusion without hesitation. News outlets repeated the same phrase over and over: case closed. but not everyone agreed. Behind the headlines, small inconsistencies began to surface, minor details that didn't fit the narrative. A missing memory card from a key security camera, conflicting witness reports about the direction of the gunfire, details that seemed insignificant at first, but would later become the foundation for a disturbing question. Was Tyler Robinson really the shooter, or the easiest man to blame? Please make sure you comment while listening to this update. Give us your feedback, and we'll make sure we respond to everything. That's a proof that we are fighting for justice and what is right. From the outside, it looked like an open and shut case. The police had their suspect, the media had its story, and the public had someone to blame. But behind the polished press briefings and confident statements, the investigation was anything but simple. Early reports suggested that investigators had gathered clear evidence: a rifle linked to Robinson, shell casings recovered from the scene, and a supposed note discovered in his apartment. It was presented as proof beyond question. Yet, when defense analysts reviewed the findings, they noticed immediate red flags. The timeline of events didn't align. The weapon said to have been used in the attack showed traces of multiple DNA profiles, not just one. Witnesses described seeing movement in two different directions, one near the auditorium, another from an elevated position farther away. But only one of those accounts made it into the final police summary. Then came the issue of the missing footage. One of the auditorium's perimeter cameras, the one facing the northwest entrance, had its memory card removed just hours after the shooting. No official explanation was ever given. The report simply listed the footage as unavailable. Behind the scenes, private investigators hired by Robinson's legal team began re-examining every frame, every timestamp, every overlooked document. They uncovered internal inconsistencies, access logs showing that Robinson's security card had been disabled before the attack, communication records suggesting orders were changed moments prior to the shooting. Each new discovery chipped away at the certainty that had once surrounded the case. What had been labeled as decisive evidence now looked questionable, and what had been dismissed as rumor began to sound disturbingly plausible. Slowly, a new theory began to take shape, that someone within the security structure may have orchestrated the perfect setup, using timing, access, and technology to ensure one outcome: a quick arrest, a convincing story, and no reason to look any deeper. But truth, no matter how tightly it's sealed, has a way of surfacing. And when it did, it would come in the form of two discoveries powerful enough to unravel everything investigators thought they knew. For weeks, the case against Tyler Robinson stood firm, airtight in the public eye, unshakable in the courtroom. But then, quietly and without warning, two pieces of evidence emerged. They weren't theories or rumors. They were verifiable, time-stamped, and independently analyzed. Together, they rewrote everything. The first came from an unexpected source: a small drone operated by a freelance videographer covering the event from a nearby rooftop. The footage had been overlooked for weeks, filed away as irrelevant background media. But when examined closely, frame by frame, it revealed something extraordinary. Just seconds before the fatal shots, a figure appears on the far edge of a secondary rooftop, dressed in dark tactical clothing, carrying what appears to be a scoped weapon. The movement is brief, almost invisible at full speed, but undeniable when slowed down. Moments later, a flash, and then chaos below. Experts verified the footage, matching the timestamp with the precise moment of the attack, recorded on emergency communications. The angle of fire lined up, not with the location Robinson was said to be in, but with the very rooftop captured on the drone recording. The second proof was digital, a line of data buried deep within the university's internal security system. When cybersecurity analysts retrieved the raw access logs, they discovered that Robinson's identification card, the only tool that could have granted him entry to restricted areas, had been deactivated nearly an hour before the attack. That means he physically couldn't have entered the zone investigators claimed he fired from. The system registered multiple manual overrides from an administrator's account, suggesting the change was intentional and timed. Both findings were cross-verified by independent forensic teams and confirmed to be authentic. When presented to the defense, they immediately filed for a re-examination of all evidence tied to Robinson's arrest. What followed was disbelief, even within law enforcement circles. The official narrative, once presented with confidence, now stood on shaky ground. The so-called confession note suddenly appeared out of place. The eyewitness accounts no longer aligned. The missing camera footage, once dismissed as a technical glitch, now looked like a deliberate act of concealment. These two proofs didn't just cast doubt on the investigation, they exposed the possibility of manipulation, a setup engineered to direct blame, shield others, and close a case before the real story could surface. For Tyler Robinson, it was no longer just a fight for freedom. It became a battle to reclaim truth itself, one that would test the integrity of every person who claimed to stand for justice. The moment the new evidence reached the courtroom, everything changed. What had once been considered a closed case was suddenly back in motion, and the world was watching. Defense attorneys demanded an emergency hearing, citing the drone footage and the recovered access logs as proof of wrongful accusation. Prosecutors, caught off guard, requested time to verify the findings. Inside the courthouse, tension was palpable. Journalists filled every seat, cameras lined the entrance, and social media platforms lit up with speculation. Outside, two different crowds formed, one calling for justice for Charlie Kirk, the other demanding freedom for Tyler Robinson. Voices clashed in the streets as opinions split down the middle. Commentators questioned how such vital evidence could have been overlooked, while others accused investigators of deliberate negligence. As the pressure mounted, statements from law enforcement became cautious. Officials who had once spoken with certainty now chose their words carefully. Internal reviews were announced. Agencies began investigating their own procedures, who handled the footage, who sealed the reports, and who authorized the deactivation of Robinson's access credentials. The media storm only grew. Television panels debated whether Robinson was an innocent man or part of something far more complex. Online, the conversation turned into a global discussion about accountability, bias, and the dangers of rushing justice. Robinson's family, who had remained silent for months, finally spoke publicly, describing him as calm, disciplined, and deeply loyal to his profession. Their quiet composure contrasted sharply with the frenzy surrounding the case. In court filings, the defense revealed patterns of evidence mishandling, reports written after the fact, signatures missing from key chain of custody forms, and conflicting timestamps across digital records. Every revelation chipped further at the credibility of the initial investigation. By now, the narrative that once seemed unbreakable had fractured completely. The prosecution's case, once hailed as airtight, was under review, and the public's faith in the process had begun to crumble. What had started as a single tragedy had now become something much larger, a reckoning over truth, trust, and the thin line between justice and convenience. As the new evidence reshaped public perception, one question refused to fade. If Tyler Robinson wasn't the shooter, then who was? And why was he chosen to take the fall?